Yes, here we go. Welcome aboard the bus. It is Tuesday night, just gone 8 o'clock. It's our first show since the worst derby that I have watched in living memory, maybe. And it is the day after the worst deadline day I can remember in living memory as well. Misery loves company, so we're expecting a busy show tonight. But I read the mood music on the old Twitter. That's about as advanced as I get with the old social media. But Celtic Twitter right now is full of rage, full of anger, full of disappointment as well, by the way. And I think full of a change of attitude from many people that maybe were on the fence, that maybe were a bit more lukewarm to the idea that this board don't actually have a fucking clue what they're doing. And I think even their heads are beginning to turn. We're going to discuss all that tonight. We're going to discuss Sunday. We're going to discuss mainly what the hell this summer actually, where this summer leaves Celtic. First, need to do all that good stuff. We'll tick the boxes. That means please give us a like, give us a share or a dislike. I'm eased. Piesports.com are our sponsor. Remember, just go to the checkout if you're on there, and it's bus 1888. Please, if you are a subscriber, hit the bell. You'll never miss a show. If you're not subscribed, you're new to the channel, hello. Feel free to hit the subscribe button. If you enjoy tonight's content, don't do it straight away. You could do it if you enjoy the show. And there is the option of being a Bhoycie Bus member, like so many of you took up. We do appreciate it. It's $1.99 a month. Anyway, all that shit out the road, because it's not why we're here tonight. I am fucked off, Jonathan. It's as simple as that. And I feel like right now, vindication and worries that you've had doesn't really tickle my balls, to be honest with you. Who cares whether I've been pushing the narrative, keep your eyes on the board for years? It's about the present. Life's always about the present. And right now, the present isn't fucking good enough. And it's time people's eyes are on the board. If they weren't before, fine. Welcome to the club, because now they are. I sense it, that you're now dealing with the minority who have still got their eyes covered, their fingers in their ears, and don't want to accept the absolute downsizing, downscaling, and piss poor attempts that this board make at running Celtic. The Celtic board are rubbish at running Celtic Football Club. I want to say in 2025, because that's sticking with the present theme, but they've been shite at it for a long time, and the records prove it. The utter dreadful qualification attempts that this club's made when it comes to there being qualifiers involved for the Champions League. They're great at just going straight into the group stage. Even then, though, have they really tooled up when the guaranteed 30 million was there? Then when it comes to working out a strategy, I say that term so loosely, but when it comes out to working a strategy, it comes down to working a strategy out for how we're going to navigate qualifiers to make the Champions League. They are shit at it. It's not that they're not very good at it. They're shit at it. Their last 5 in a row, they've failed. I can't remember what the number was we worked at. I think it was 8 out of 12 failed campaigns in the last 20 years. They've not had qualifying campaigns in each of the 20 years. And when they have, I think it's 8 out of 12 they've failed. That is utterly deplorable as a record. And yet they cherry pick the next in office and a Michael Nicholson. We'll get to him. Don't worry about that. We will get to him. Jonathan, as you can tell, I'm feeling a wee bit animated. I don't want to make it all fucking about my rage and all that. But how are you? I mean, surely the frustration that I'm showing right now, you must be sharing it. You'll probably be able to be a bit more diplomatic than me. That's why you're here. But Fuck me, man. Enough's enough with this crap.
It's been utter shit the last few days, to put it mildly, and one of those that many people have been calling this happening for a number of weeks, a number of months. There's been a lot of Celtic fans out on the podcast and the blogs, all saying we need these players to be signed. Nothing's really been happening. There's always this air of hope that you're going to get the deals done towards the end of the window, because that tends to be what the board do, is they pull out a few signings right at the wire. This year, the whole thing's backfired on them spectacularly, because that, you use the word strategy, that is, as far as I can see, the strategy is wait until the last possible minute to see who's available and then try and pick up the scraps. And it's not good enough. It's nowhere near good enough for a Celtic team to be this badly dismembered by the board. There's no real quality now in the attacking areas. You're now scrambling around for the likes of an Ian Acho or a Bamford because they're free agents. And Celtic should never, ever have found themselves in a situation like this. And I think it's been highlighted now as well on the pitch that we've been needing needing players for a number of weeks. You can go back to that first leg of that Champions League qualifier, and it was staring you in your face that you were needing players in. They didn't react. They waited till they went out the Champions League. You then think, as a reactive board, they will react. That's what they tend to do. Even then, it's been a half-arse reaction, to say the least. They then go to Ibrox and put in one of the most miserable performances I've ever seen at Ibrox. Even, in any derby that I can remember, even once we've been cuffed, we usually offer more going forward. I think we had, 2 shots on target, XG of about 0.17, if that's what floats anyone's boat. And it all just comes back to the fact that the warning signs have been there all summer. And our board, for whatever reason, have decided to just ignore every single one of them along the way. And when you get to the final day, they've even dragged their feet so much on the guy from Anderlecht, Joburg, that they've actually let another club come in and pinch him from underneath us. And they'll probably try and turn around and say that.
Through, by the way.
Yeah,
that's the best bit of what I've read tonight, was that might even have fallen through.
And that might have fallen through, which is even more priceless if that's what's happened. But the only reason Ajax could have ended up in that situation, don't make any mistake about it, this wasn't the players that's ended up being head-turned. This is Celtic's fault for not signing him days ago, if not weeks ago, if this is somebody that Brendan had identified. Let's not kid ourselves on that Ajax have suddenly became the villains of the piece and have snuck in from out of nowhere and done us in completely. This was something that, if Celtic had really wanted this guy, they would have went and tried to get him earlier on in the window before Ajax even became a factor. And that was a doable deal because Anderlecht were needing money. Celtic didn't react. They then ended up scrambling because I think the board had already pocketed him as if they were going to be getting him on the last day of the season. They'd already chalked that up as a win. And then ultimately, as you say, Ajax come in at the last minute, and they're in a situation where they're then scrambling desperately like headless chicken, no idea where they're going. You're looking at guys that are fucking trying to go to Charlton. I think that one fell through as well for Fofana too. And now we're in a situation where we don't actually have a recognised striker because we also sell our only recognised striker for me and Adam Ida that could potentially do a job for us this season. And that's despite Brendan Rodgers saying the other day that he won't be allowed to leave until a striker is brought in. And so where does this leave the manager in all of this, Russell? Has he not just been made to look like an absolute idiot, much like the fans throughout this whole window?
Well, the one thing is with Brendan is I get accused of being a Brendan apologist at times. That's fine. That's absolutely fine. The way I see it is with Brendan is, Brendan's been Celtic's only spokesman this whole summer. The summer is silence from the guys in situ. And then Brendan literally has been left to talk about all matters Celtic, off and on the field. He has been trying to get his message across. But you know the one thing I'm going to give Brendan Rodgers, right? Funnily enough. See, the last time around, Brendan was accused of signposting his exit, working his ticket after he left. So do you know what? See, for his first spell at Celtic, Brendan Rodgers has changed. He has tried to not do the same things he was getting absolutely slated for after his first departure. So he's decided, do you know what? I'm not going to give those signposts. I'm not going to say the terminados. I'm not going to make the digs. I'm going to try it and be balanced, Brendan. So I don't get any of that snash either. So that tells me that someone from his first spell that has sat and he has reflected and he has decided to adapt for his second spell. See, the one thing you cannot deny is that fucking board are acting the exact same way they did with Brendan and this team and this club as they were the first spell. That is the one thing. Although this thing, we didn't get a 17th winger that Brendan had never heard of. We didn't get Vacuum Bio. We got fucking fuck all. That's what we got. And these guys use their own words against them, Jonathan. See, rather than everyone try to pick through what Brendan's saying all the time when he's been the only person to speak at Celtic, stop using his words against them, right? Because it's unfair, I would say, when he's having to field questions of all sorts, every single matter Celtic on his own, hung out to dry, I think deliberately. But apparently, even some pods were saying before, that was a conspiracy. Glad you've changed your mind now. Welcome aboard. Now, the other thing that's really frustrating about this is, see, when it comes down to using Brendan's words against him, why don't we actually have a deeper dive into the words that are used by the board themselves? Use their words against them. It's my favourite way of debating people. I always just use words that they've said, whether it be against me or against the argument they're trying to make. The reality is, Peter Lawwell, I don't know what the date of the interview is, but I watched it on TikTok, so I'm down with that social media and I made it TikTok. Oh, check me, man. I was on TikTok and there's an interview with Peter Lawwell saying, every penny Celtic earn is reinvested into the club. And this is how condescending and patronising he says. After he goes, so you can't do more than everything. You can't do more than... You're still doing everything, Peter. What's the other argument? By the happy clappers, he does nothing. He does nothing. But his wages quadrupled in the last set of accounts to over 120,000 a year. I'll take that job. I fancy doing nothing for 120 grand a year. You can't have it both ways. His shadow looms large over this football club. And you have got a guy that has sat and also then told you this in more recent times. You get what you pay for. When justifying the I'm not going to try and say it. The salary. That's it. That Michael Nicholson earns. He actually says you get what you pay for. You condescending wanker. Right? Then you've got Nicholson. Is that a phone? Is that my phone going? I'm a bit scared to answer my phone. I'm nervous. He's too scared to make or take phone calls. That is what he is. I look at him now and I go, you're camera shy, you've got no backbone, and you're nervous as a Celtic owner. And I think you're getting caught in the transfer game a wee bit similar to maybe what Ed Woodward was at Man U. That someone who looks like a rabbit in the headlights and someone to see clubs that are savvy or might not even be the biggest clubs, but have businessmen in charge who know what they're talking about. They see through cowards. They see through them and they go, who are you playing hardball with? I'll call your bluff. We've got 3 other clubs in queue for this player. You thought you'd take him off our hands for fucking a curly whirly and a fucking iron brew bottle? No chance. And you're saying it with that nervous disposition that you give over. This guy stopped taking calls over fucking Stephen Welsh for Plymouth. This guy stopped taking phone calls over Benjamin Siegrist leaving. By the way, detrimental to actual individuals' careers going forward, which is a sin in itself. Nicholson won't front the media either. But what also is so apparent in his weakness is the fact that you get that job, you get 800 grand plus a year, and you sit and you are a puppet to your masters, and you repeat and rinse and repeat all the mistakes that the guy before you for 17, 18 years made, because he sometimes walks through the office. He doesn't do anything, by the way. Doesn't do anything. He just has to lean over the back of your desk, doesn't he? Like a line manager would. What you up to, Michael? Nothing, Peter. That's what this Muppet's like. There is nothing happening right now that is impressive at Celtic. They are rubbish at running the football club. Utterly rubbish at it. They have no forecasting, no strategy. They have no optimism in what Celtic can be as well, which is the most frustrating thing. There is nothing about them that views a future of Celtic that might have green-tinted specks fucking on. And you know what? I don't mind a wee bit of dreaming sometimes. I thought that's what following a football team was all about. Let us try and dream. Let us fucking focus on, things that are maybe far-fetched for reality. Like, I don't know, winning a playoff in the Champions League. Call me mad. Right? But no, it feels to me their vision and their future view of Celtic seems to be extremely downplayed, extremely minimalistic. And I can't help but feel right now that these guys have to have another agenda. And people aren't quite sure how to put their finger on what that is. I could speculate. And I wonder if KPIs become a huge part of their thinking. And one of their KPIs to get their bonuses has to be whatever profit margin they're making in a window, per window. It has to be. Whatever the bank balance sheet looks like, is that a key performance indicator as to how you get your bonus? Is there a bill looming that no one wants to discuss? The elephant in the room. Is there a bill looming that? All we're looking for is a bit of transparency. All we're looking for is a bit of honesty. A bit of, hey, this is why we are where we are. All we're getting right now is silence, a manager hung out to dry, and a football team getting decimated in front of your eyes. From a position of proper strength. Make it make sense, please.
It's unbelievable. It really is when you're looking at it with the amount of money Celtic have accrued over the past few seasons from having the Champions League, which they didn't have to work for at all, getting in through our rivals' success in Europe, not our success in Europe, our rivals' success in Europe, who, might I add, have had nowhere near the same amount of financial resources that we have had, and still managed to make the best of their situations when it comes to European football compared to us. And then you've got us who are sitting on an absolute fortune in the bank, and we can't even do the basics of making sure we have first team player ready players for every position at the end of the window. We're in a situation where we are still, what are we now, 8 months on from the sale of Kyogo, and we haven't replaced them. In fact, we've actually sold another striker since then, because that's apparently what Celtic do now. That's apparently what, is it a world-class organisation or whatever they say, is that it does. So
we want Celtic to be world-class in everything it does. Words like that.
World-class in everything it does. Well, this is about the furthest thing from world-class you're ever fucking likely to see at Celtic. And you're right. I think if there was some degree of communication as to what is actually going on with all this money sitting in the bank, if there is some big reason behind it, then fucking tell us what it is. Tell us there's something going on and we need to keep the money back. It's not that hard to be honest with your client base. I mean, goodness only knows, you're quick enough to get the emails out every week for fucking merchandise that you want to fucking sell. So if there's things that there's going on at the club that are going to cost a bit of money, whether it's stadium repairs or that bill you're talking about or whatever else it could be, then the fans have a right to know that. They're forking out hundreds, if not, well, actually, it's thousands of pounds the season ticket holders. Thousands of pounds they are putting in to that football club every year. And you don't think they deserve the common courtesy of knowing why there is so many millions, tens of millions of pounds sitting in a bank account, yet there's no first team striker. There was not even wingers in the door, until the final day of the season, final day of the window, pretty much. You're in a situation here where this is amateur hour of the highest proportions. I'm actually looking at it, Russell, and I would actually love if they had some sort of Amazon, one of those fly on the wall documentaries like Sunderland till I die, because I would love to see what the fuck goes on at our football club. Oh no, I would love to see what goes on behind the scenes on this.
Shortest series of all time. It would be done in about half an hour, mate.
They would gloss it up. They would cover too much up. I wouldn't trust any sort of level of transparency in it. That's the only thing. you would need to really have complete control to get to see anything that's going on in there. But I would liken it, and the way I liken it to the Celtic is actually what the Spurs one was like a few years ago. I would imagine they're very similar to Daniel Levy at Spurs at the top end, where they just refuse to spend cash and they seem to think they know better than the footballing end in the footballing departments, and rather than actually leaving them to work out what areas of the pitch we strengthen and identifying the targets, they fancy a wee game of Football Manager on the wee laptops and decide to get themselves involved in things they've got no business in being involved in. And I think they've, as I say, they've been gambling for this for a long time, Russell. A long time. They've been getting away with it the last few years because the Champions League money was guaranteed. So they got a bit more grace, even if the windows, and we've discussed them, haven't always been brilliant, to say the least. And even in the month, even the times they didn't qualify, they still ended up usually bringing a few players in afterwards, which appeased a number of fans, and sometimes those players turned out to be quite good acquisitions that were just done too late in the window, for most fans' liking, I would presume. Whereas this window was always the ticking time bomb with this strategy that this was going to erupt in their face at some point. If you leave all your business to the last day of the season, last day of the window, then you're always going to find yourself in a situation where things like this can happen and you're unable to get your targets in. And I don't understand how they can possibly have thought going into the final day of the window that every club that they were going to be looking to buy from knew they had Celtic over a barrel. If that's negotiating from a position of strength, if that's supposed to be some sort of strategy from what are supposed to be really well thought of businessmen, then I think we're in more trouble than we first thought. How can you possibly think this is even good from a business perspective that, if you're going to be going in and just talking monetary figures, that turning around and deciding, let's wait till the last minute to do negotiations, and that's going to strengthen our hand in them, when we could have done this 4, 5, 6 weeks ago from a position of financial strength that we always had, but also a position of we're in a better place in the footballing timeline in the season where we could have, used that to our advantage a bit more and played hardball. I think what's became readily apparent is Celtic do not seem to have good negotiators in the room, and they certainly don't have any direction from boardroom level. It'll be very interesting to see how this plays out, Russell, I think, over the next few weeks, and how much this dissatisfaction continues. They've got very fortunate, I have to say, that there's an international break at the minute. I think the next home game's against Hibs at the end of the month. I fully expect Celtic fans will still remember and won't let them off that easy in a few weeks' time, regardless of what free agents they fucking find in the bargain bins over the next few days. And rightfully so. But will this actually change anything? I don't think so. I don't think so. It feels like there's a lot more anger than there's ever been, and rightfully so from the support. I think this board will just dig its heels in, though. I don't think you'll see anybody removed.
Yeah, you're watching a masterclass right now in the fact they are untouchable. They are untouchable in so many ways because see and I've got to endorse something. So I do endorse the fact that so many fans. I'm not a season ticket holder. I don't claim to be. I never have claimed to be. So let's get that out the road. But those who are, you have to respect. Firstly, the commitment to be able to go. The amount of Saturdays they do. A lot of them away from home as well. A lot of them midweek games. But the home cup ticket scheme, it seems there's a big traction of fans turning it down. Here's the fucking other side of it all, Jonathan. This is the incredible bit where they've got you by the fucking short and curlies. They will turn round and say the loss of revenue from people not buying pies at games and people not going to the superstore and people not doing that meant that we had to downsize further. Oh yes, we had to downsize further. But that bank balance, trust me, by hook or by crook, they will maintain. That's the reality. The difference you can make is so minimal by this, albeit I still endorse it and I think it's the right thing to do. Nothing is louder than a customer base using their feet. I've always said that. I think the best thing I think on top of that would be looking at the return fixture. I think Hibs will need them. I think your Premier Sports Cup game, do you mind about the Premier Sports Cup if we go out it? Is that still our aspiration? Is we need to win trebles when we're out of Champions League? As far as I'm concerned, I would just arrange on a said minute, everyone walks out. Everyone. And then you find out the happy clappers will stay, and that's fine. Let's start looking at what the actual percentage of that is. You see, when you get a visual, mate, so important. I would pick a minute. Let's make it 25 minutes because it's season 2020. It's the summer of 2025 that's fucked it. 25 minutes, everyone goes. And those who want to stay, that's fine. But everyone goes 25 minutes in that League Cup tie, and you see all those empty seats. I think visuals are very, very important. Very important in that. I do think they will use so much against you. I think Dermot Desmond has his absolute agenda and his mantra that would mean all those people who left aren't real Celtic fans. Anyone who's not just a shut up, silent, paying customer to Dermot Desmond isn't a real Celtic fan. You've got a guy who literally sits above a bunch of muppets that are so prehistoric they make dinosaurs look fucking young, and they are all sitting there playing musical chairs. Jobs for the boys, jobs for your kids. Anyone new? And do you know what the best bit is? You've got folk fucking sitting there going, don't know how Mark Tisdale holds on to his job. That's what Harry Brady tweets last night, that guy. And then when I said, encouraging someone to lose their job when it's the guys that are below, he says, at what point did I say that? Read your first sentence, mate. You, with a position of influence, with 20,000 odd followers, or maybe even more than that, saying, I don't know how Tisdale holds on to his job after this. That's your opening statement. So reread it and look how you're complicit when you've got that big an audience. There's always pricks out there, Jonathan, that can't see the wood for the trees, but they're running out of lives. They have to be, because this isn't a new thing. It's a pattern of bad decisions that have led us here. A pattern of bad decisions and a pattern of cowardice, in the sense of they can't handle new innovative ideas. They can't handle Don Mackay coming and wanting to shake things up. Peter Lawwell threw his own son under a bus after the cheek to employ him in the first place. Tisdale right now has came in to do a job and has two arms tied behind his back and can't do it. And here's the other side of it as well. I mentioned this in the bus. People won't remember this, but I read an interview with Lee Congerton, who at the time was working for Atalanta as they were on their Europa League final season. He spoke about his spell at Celtic. And how's your career done so well other than that spell at Celtic? And if you remember right, the conditioning this board did that they're so good at had us all convinced and hoodwinked Lee Congerton was the worst guy at Celtic Park. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I do, yeah.
Yet his career seems to have flourished before and after. As some of the gems he's actually signed, honestly, is unbelievable. All you get right now is a board that will let the last man in be the first one out, and they maintain, rearrange, rehash roles. I deplore the fact they sit and let the manager be the fall guy as well, in terms of the only spokesman at the club. I deplore the fact they have told us they're world class in everything they do when they're clearly not. I hate the fact the term player trading model Celtic seem to adopt to sign their masters at, when we had the 9 in a row. Remember 9 in a row? Oh no, I don't mean under Neil Lennon. I remember Brendan Rodgers' first summer transfer window. That's the 9 in a row I'm talking about. 9 shitey signings in a row. And then you get the one summer that I guarantee people will forget, the timing, which is what Brendan's alluding to. And that's when Adam Ida and Ingles come in as two of our top 5 record signers, 2 of our top 3 record signings of all time. They come in after pre-season's done, once the campaign's actually started. People forget that. But people talk about the Ange summer of 2021 like it was all so different. It wasn't, guys. Ange Postecoglou had to come out. His quotes are there. Search them. Where he says, maybe I've not been forceful enough in my messaging to the board that we need strengthening, we need reinforcements. We signed Jota, Giacomakis and Cameron Carter-Vickers between 11 p.m. and midnight on deadline day. Well, do you know what? They ran out of lives last night because they got fuck all. Let's talk, Jonathan, about the signings that they have made. They've brought in, since our last show, believe it or not, 2 more players.
Yeah.
Three. We brought in a left back with a decent CV pedigree. Mick tells us on the channel on Thursday that was not even a Celtic scouted player. That was
I heard that as well.
an agent recommendation. Makes total sense because he doesn't fit the profile of what they're looking for. What else have we had? Two left wingers. We were looking at a guy called Briam.
Yeah.
2.6 million we initially bidded. We've now paid more for Tanukti than what than that. Yeah, double that, but more than what the actual asking price was for Briam. We're now looking at Ian Acho and Patrick Bamford. Tell me that's a strategy. Tell me this is a strategy and you're watching world class. Tell me you're watching. This is the other amazing statement that fans seem to have lapped up. The best run football club in Europe. I wear the shirt the night because it was obviously the Celtics for Change era and all that. And as far as I'm concerned, I don't know what the modern version of that looks like, but it's going to need to be fan channels that have always told the truth, by the way, that are going to get the proper clout. Because see, when I reflect, I've seen, you see, it was that Tino and Celtic Exchange for Celtic Exchange. No offence to them, by the way. No, I don't know him for Adam. So let's get that right. He was on Sky Sports, spoke very well today. But he'd also admitted that he thought sack the board was a bit premature the last home game. Where have you been? Where have you been for the last few years? No, you've accepted just results on the park and you've covered your eyes, Tino, and you've put fingers in your ears if you don't think that board didn't need replaced way before. I knew the summer of 2022 where this was going. We just had the glory season under Angie's first year. They were getting the credit somehow for the summer transfer window, which Ange had to force over the line. We had a very direct January where we made January 1st signings of first team players, albeit it fell into Celtic Board's lap because they were affordable, i.e. 1.5 million for Atati, 2 million for Maeda, 1.5 million for O'Reilly. By the way, O'Reilly was not the original target, remember? It was meant to be Riley McGree. But then the summer of 22 happened and it was a shambles again. They don't ever build for a position of strength. They never will. They are obsessed for some reason with the balance books. And it is so fucking obvious to me right now that even if a storm is a brew, even if this season is to fall off a cliff, which they would fucking deserve, and that is the most frustrating thing, they would actually deserve it. But how does that make us feel? We're conflicted because you want it to get right up them, you want them to get to fuck, but I can't bear to watch Celtic get beat. I don't want to see Celtic get beat in the park. There's too much emotional pull. So they've got you by the short and curlies again. The whole thing is a shit show of their own doing, and they are literally invincible. They have a force field around them that we can't penetrate. We can't get into it. It's jobs for the boys. There is no fresh thinking in there, and there's nothing we can do to change it. Apart from stop buying pies, merch, going to Europa League games. There's 100 million reasons why they've still got longevity in their roles right now, guys. Here's another question. We often sing at Rangers, as do many clubs, fans, which is funny. You're not Rangers anymore. Are we watching Celtic anymore? Is this the version of a Celtic football club that targets, bans Palestinian flags, treats its fans like sardines in a tin when it goes to watching matches, is silent on them with their own money, but will take money off them? Silent, no, the whole way through. Is smug, is arrogant. Has Dermot Desmond calling them not even real fans when it even is a majority of them that think differently to him? This club doesn't even fit the political views even close to of any of the supporters. Not that I tend to get too involved in that. But you wouldn't have got banned for a Ukraine flag, right? So let's have it right. A Palestinian one shouldn't be banned either. Then it will come into how they actually progress as a club, and they smugly tell you, we can't put more than everything in. We put everything in, so you can't do more than everything. We're world class in everything you do. You get what you pay for. That's who these people are that run this. So here's another question. Whilst we rightfully can say to them, you're not Rangers anymore, I look at that board and I think you're not Celtic anymore.
I think that's a very apt statement to make. I think the board have really made this rod for their own backs. There's been a growing frustration with them for so many years, and it's all to do with their actions. And I was actually reading a bit of the Celtic blog recently, which is Forrest, and he does a very good piece for about a week where he goes through all of the Champions League qualifiers that we've had that we've failed in the last 10 or so years. And each one of them has that running theme of just utter incompetence by our board when it comes to dealing with players in the transfer window. And as I say, they've managed to get away with that. I think, as we've discussed so many times on this channel, and many others have as well, there is an element now of conditioning the support into where Celtic should be as a football club. And you've got a younger set of fans that have come through that, if you were, say, they were born in about 2000 to 2005, say, they've barely seen anything from Celtic on a European front. They had Lenny beating Barcelona again for the last 16, and some of them might be old enough to remember Strachan in Europe. But they've had very, very few occasions to really get excited about being a Celtic fan and watching their team play in Europe, which to me is damning as well, given the fact that we've both been very lucky, the two of us, that we have seen Celtic do some incredible things in Europe, like so many fans in and around our age or older have been able to do so. And somewhere along the line, Celtic have then decided, in fact, let's not even bother trying, is how it feels when it comes to the main European stage in particular. They seem to be in a situation now where it's like, well, we're never going to win this tournament anyway, so we'll just keep our money and we won't bother even trying to make any sort of progress in it. And who cares whether we get thumped fucking 5-6-0 if we're even in the competition. Oh, we've actually got a playoff to play this year, but that's not going to be any use either because we won't be able to win that. So we're not going to invest in the squad to even give ourselves a chance of playing against the big teams and trying to take some scouts. The lack of ambition is truly astonishing from a Celtic board at this point. And we're in a situation where there's too many of them that have hung around for too long. And you just wouldn't see this really anywhere else in a football club. The length of time our board members have been there. For example, you've got a manager at Celtic or anywhere else, and they've been there for 20, 25 years. They'd have been gone long before then. At some point, there's going to be a natural decline. It's a cycle. Unless you're Sir Alex Ferguson, who was an exception to the rule, most managers would have a cycle, and at some point, they need to be replaced because they're on a downward trend. This board has been on a downward trend for about at least 10 years, I would say.
Can I just tell you something as well? See, what frustrates me is, see, when you use something like an Alex Ferguson comparison, was that board understood. He understood football better than them.
Yeah.
So see, when he sees a downward cycle, and he might think that might be a Ruud van Nistelrooy, I know you'll be shocked, but I actually think he might not be as good as he was. And everyone's going, what? He's 29, the peak of his... Yeah, and his attitude's not great. They backed him. They never told Alex Ferguson, do you know what we think? We think Ruud would be a good sale right now. These are manager calls. The football inside was left to him. If you don't think Brendan Rodgers and the guy he apparently earmarked for this job, i.e. Paul Tisdale, know more about the football inside than that nervy shitebag Michael Nicholson and that smug, out his depth, egotistical, absolutely petrified of someone else doing the job better than him, Peter Lawwell, then you're mad.
Yeah, and again, it does fall back onto all of this fact that the board still want to play football manager and still think they can do a better job than the footballing operations. And they're going to have a real problem on their hands because this is something else we've not really touched upon tonight, albeit it's something everybody knows anyway. But if there was ever any question marks over whether Brendan Rodgers was going to be extending his Celtic stay, the Celtic board have answered that resoundingly in the past couple of months. It's became pretty clear over the past few weeks it was looking unlikely. Now we have a complete answer that the board have absolutely no interest in him being in situ next season. Otherwise, they would have, been throwing the kitchen sink at it to bring the players in to try and convince him that his ambitions were being matched by the board. And now instead of that, not only are we now going to have a team that's got gaping holes all throughout it, there's going to need to be strengthened significantly in January, which is a notorious window to do business in, Russell. And then, we'll be back in
Every window is. Every window is notoriously bad if you're Celtic. I had a guy at work today, mate. This is unbelievable. He says, remember though, he is a bold apologist, right? I still love him. I think he's a great guy. But he is a bold apologist, right? He loves everything Celtic. So he can't split the two just because. And do you know what? Even now I'm getting wound up with that because I'm going, no, you have to still split it. You still need to. But he said, remember that every transfer, both parties need to be involved. Need to agree. I went, that's the same for every transfer in the history of the world. There's no transfer that's ever occurred. I went, now listen to what you're saying. I think they've done the conditioning thing, as you've pointed out very well, for a numerous amount of time. I do feel there's more of a turn now. We shouldn't take this. It should be, I want Celtic fans in future to forecast things. See when we had guaranteed group stage football. See when we had some players that you liked. Don't accept Bernabe as a left back. Don't accept Aaron Moy for coming in for a retirement swan song to get fit for a World Cup. Don't accept this shit. Say you want to kick on. Don't fall for it that Brendan spent millions and millions and millions when really they got him in. He got the guys he wanted in after pre-season, when the season had already begun at the last possible minute and overpaid for them. Remember that. Don't fall for it anymore. Jonathan, the thing is, whether it's time for change or enough's enough, what do you honestly see going forward happening?
Oh, it's a tricky one. I see a very difficult few months in store for Celtic. That much is for sure. I don't think it's going to be fun to watch. I'll be saying that right now for anyone. The board might enjoy the bank balance and looking at that, but for any fan wanting to watch Celtic over the next few months, I think you're going to be in for more of what we've just witnessed over the past couple of weeks, regardless of who we find in the bargain bins. Because looking at these guys, Patrick Bamford, when I was having a quick look at his numbers, I think he's on average, his best spell, I think he was about a goal every 4 games as a striker. I think Ian actually may have been even worse than that in terms of his record. And this is now what we are going to be resigned to signing and hoping can lead the line for us at the very least until January. Bearing in mind, we've got Europa League games to play. Ultimately, if you're not going to be in the Champions League, obviously that's hugely significant in the sense that we should have been in it. But the next thing you do is when you've realised you've got out the Champions League, you make sure that Brendan gets the players in to at least make a bit of a run in the Europa League, because the Europa League as a tournament Celtic should be looking at and thinking, we can go far in this. Rangers went far in it not long ago. Rangers have been going far in it for years. There's no reason why, if you don't invest properly, the Europa League in some ways, you might turn around. If Celtic had ended up doing the investment late and then we ended up in a situation where we get to like a Europa League quarter-final, people might have ended up forgetting about the Champions League qualification mishap in some ways. That was the board's opportunity to try and correct a mistake there. They completely fucked that opportunity. We're now in a situation where we're going to be playing Europa League games with either Maeda up front or, as I say, somebody out the bargain basement, bargain bins that's going to have to try and slot in up front. And you've got some tricky European ties there, as well. And let's not forget, even domestically, we haven't been firing brilliantly up front in a lot of games. Teams are going to get savvy to us and play those defensive blocks when they start realising we're struggling to create opportunities. Now, granted, the wingers may well offer something that might change that up a bit, and you'd like to think they will be able to do that. But I'm looking at it and thinking it's going to be a very bleak few months. I think Celtic will get away with it domestically because the club across the city are all over the place, to put it bluntly, and we're very lucky they are.
No. See, this is the thing. It's
Well,
not lucky
we are and we aren't. You're lucky they are in the sense they're not going to be overtaking you, but you're not particularly lucky in the sense that means that gives the board the
It's encouraged
opportunity
them.
to take the
It's
foot off the
encouraged
gas.
them, mate.
Yeah.
Jonathan, this has encouraged them. They are so obsessed with what Rangers do as a football club. I am convinced of that. Utterly convinced. They are so reactive to what Rangers do. They do not focus on what Celtic can be. They focus on what Celtic should be, which is in their mind a step ahead of Rangers. And by the way, see when it came to decisive action, and I'm so done with comparing ourselves to a team that's been around for fucking 13 years, won one league in a COVID season. What are we comparing ourselves with them for all the time? Well, like, we win the league almost on a yearly basis. That's because of our great management, though, Bhoycie. I can hear it now. I can almost hear Lowell in my living room. Fuck off. The thing that frustrates me the most is even these Muppets, right? Sell Igamani, who refuses to come on the game, by the way. Sell for 10.5 million, bringing Miovski, who I thought was a target for Celtic the summer before. I think they fell asleep on that
It'd
one.
be better than what we ended up getting. Miovski, that's for fucking sure.
Miovski walks into our first team 11 right now. Walks into it, Jonathan. Walks into it. They then go and sign an £8 million striker for Everton, who we want to slag, by the way. I love that. We pointed and laughed. Everton reject. Hey. Wait till you see Schmeichel in a Sevilla shirt trying to fucking hit a ball. Because trust me, that's Ian Acho. If you don't want it to be him, wait to see Patrick Bamford's gold record. Fuck me. But we're scraping about for free transfers. Free transfers. We are in a terrible position for the strength that we have. And that's what's the most frustrating thing for me. We'll be trying our absolute best to convince more and more to get on that side of thinking, Jonathan, that this isn't good enough. Start turning your eyes on them. I know my voice is very small in all this, right? And I totally get it. But I've watched 3 legs against Kairat Almaty this week in the worst transfer deadline of all time. That's right, I said 3 legs because that fucking Sunday was the 3rd leg. I can only suggest things. And my suggestion would be arrange that Premier Cup sports game. If it's at home, it is at home, isn't it?
I can't remember who played in it.
Come on. Tell me it's at home. Someone tell me it's at home. I'm sure it is. I wouldn't be this far.
Somebody would have picked you up sure if it wasn't a home game.
Yeah, surely.
And
I
can't remember who it is. There's been that much going on. That's like the least of our worries. A League Cup tie against whoever it may be.
And what you need to do, if it is that, it has. Oh, it's away. It's Partick away. Everyone's saying, right? Thistle away. Don't do it for her. Let's focus on the next home league game. It's got to be a league game then. And this is the thing: you're detrimenting the team that you love, and that you need to win football matches to win a league. But I think there has to be a walkout. I'm convinced there has to be a walkout. 25 minutes, make it 25 or 26 minutes between 25 and 26, the 25-26 season. Walk out. Enough's enough. Don't buy one thing in that stadium and walk out then. I think we did ping pong balls. Remember me and you at the Livingston game a few years ago?
That's right, yeah, we did.
Tennis balls, is it? Remember?
Yeah,
Giacomakis with the penalty.
Yeah, remember missed it.
Yeah. Remember?
Yes.
Fuck that. Walk. And it's a shame on the players that are there. And I look at that Tenecti deal, and I want to feel sorry for him. Then I go, do you know what? I'd love to play for Celtic and get paid. Let's say he's on a minimum 10 grand a week, right? I'd comfort myself at night with that. The negative comments you surely can surmise aren't about him either. I think it's time that something happens that's drastic. I think the HCT thing is absolutely fair, but I think there has to be a visual. I think a visual's so important. They'll then change the numbers that have, oh, well, yeah. You know, they'll do the AGM. Wasn't as many as you think did the CT, and that'll just get us all like then doubting each other. Do a mass walkout, and you'll find out. Well, like the independence vote. I always said this about. I owned the pub at the time, Jonathan, and it was yes or no, right?
Yeah.
And here's my theory. My customer base, it was the only thing spoke about, right, that year. And if I could have given a percentage of people that were going to vote Scotland to leave Britain, it'd have been 90%. I'm not trying to go on about independence here, by the way. Let's just use an example. 90% I'd have said to 10. Then when it comes to it's 55-45 the other way, right?
Yeah.
You might just see the reality of the stands if you arrange that walkout. You might find out there's some bullshitters out there as well. You might tweet stuff like vote yes. We're not actually put it in the ballot box. And when it comes to it, they still sit in their seat. If you make it, this is so important. Let's do it. That's the way I see it, mate. Because I don't understand. I've got to laugh. I'm sorry, George. On a side note, you've just been compared to Mark Lamar. I don't know if you remember him. He used to host Shooting Stars in Hawaii. Not Hawaii.
Oh, I think it's before that time.
Yeah, what was the show? Never mind the Buzzcocks.
Oh no, I don't see that.
But yeah, the Cliffs. That's a good point. No, and Mark Lamar was cool. Anyway, you're distracting me. For fuck's sake, Typhoon. I've been on a rampage tonight, man. But I think definitely, man, there has to be a visual as well. There has to be a visual. And it might call out as well all the pricks. All the pricks who tweet shit, but then won't back it up.
They need to do something.
Look at Jim C. Jim C, 55 years old. I will walk if it was organised. People then always say this, Jonathan, as well. What's the alternative? Who do you want in charge? I swear, Jonathan, I could do a better job than them, right? That's never going to happen, right? But trust me, it's not about who you're going to get. When could you ever earmark or point a finger at someone else who could run Celtic? Who I think 99% of the population could do a better job at this moment in time. Yes, it's an open goal of a football club to start kicking on. And it's not right now. But what's had to happen is, rather than maintaining, as Brendan so cleverly put, they've maintained and they've got away with it because of the 3 years automatic group stage. See, when it came time to kick on, to actually maintain, they're not good at it. They just are shit at it. And they fucked it again.
Yeah.
And go on you go.
Yeah, I mean, they need to be, there needs to be something done, first of all, in terms of a walkout or a protest. I don't know if they've actually even announced yet what the Europa League packages are going to look like, because that'll be an interesting indicator as to how much they've got to hold their hands up and accept they've made a fuck up, and whether or not they'll offer those at a discounted price to try and offer some half-hearted apology. I'm not saying that means you should take them up. Everyone will have their own decision to make there. But I certainly think if they had any sort of common decency, it would be something they should be looking at. Do I expect them to do that? Probably not. I'd imagine they're probably going to charge whatever, around 50 quid a match, like they do for most European ties. And then you're in a situation where I fully expect, I don't expect Celtic to be selling out the Europa League for home games this season. Even with the waiting list and everything else, I think you will see empty seats at Celtic Park, and they may well have to put banners over the top tier for part of that, which does create that sort of visual aspect you're kind of looking at in some respects. But again, does it really go far enough? Will they just turn around and say, oh, well, this will just blow over, just because they're throwing their toys out the pram? Is probably how the board would look at that, because they finally got a season where they're not in the top competition. They're just being a bit frustrated over the fact they're having to go into the second tier and they're actually a bit out of order and things along that sort of line. I can imagine that could have been the conversations almost being had behind the scenes by members of the board. I think when you're looking at how you replace them, you could fucking bring almost anybody in, as you say.
It's always going to be better than Jonathan, a family birthday party.
Yeah.
Happy birthday, Mark. We've got your really special prize this year, or your present this year. Come see Mark. That's right. You're now the head of scouting. Well done, head of recruitment. Mark, a wee boy, you've done so well. They have literally ripped the piss out of us, Jonathan. Michael Nicholson, 800 grand a year, mate. I know it's a big phone, and I know they're smartphones, but they're not smarter than you, Michael. But I'm scared. I'm scared to answer the phone. Michael, it's only fucking Birmingham City trying to give you money for the worst football in the world. Could you answer the phone, Michael? I just don't know. Shut the blinds. Will someone shut the blinds? These are honestly incompetent wank. Peter Lower gets it. 300 million for Yang. It's I Peter Lowell. The wankers in the audience who will say, "What do people not understand? He's non-executive." What do you mean he's non-executive? He's the only guy with chairman in his job title. He has 20 years in that building. Trust me, his influence is incredible in there. Massively. Do you know how massively? I don't know many jobs. You've had a quadruple in your yearly salary. Ever. I know you're good at your job. I know you're well thought of. A quadruple. In fact, have you ever seen anyone eat at work?
No, not as far as I know. Not as
Salary
far as I know.
quadrupled. Wait till you find out. Wait till you find out. Peter gets his salary quadrupled. Check the accounts, please, ladies and gentlemen. Starts on 20s, 30s. He's now up to between 120 and 130 grand a year. How do you do that if you do not? He does nothing. He doesn't. So if he does nothing,
no, he does nothing or everything. It's one or the other.
he does nothing or he does everything. Jonathan, you can't quadruple your wage if you do nothing. And see if he just fucking woke up and smelt the coffee when he was first announced as non-exec chairman, the only person with chairman in his title. You know he does something. You know a guy there, 20 years, looming large, does something. You know, fine well, this is the problem. And everyone underneath him stems from him. So they're all byproducts of his vision, or lack of. I am so fucked off, Jonathan, with all this. It's unbelievable. I don't know where to go for here in terms of how Celtic recover it. My worry is that the European campaign, I kind of want to fail. I'm not that guy. I'm not. But I don't know if they could go in the Europa League and make such a James Hunt that could go, well, remember the old line that used to say, and that was, we only budget for Europa League. Well, there's now 21 years that European knockout tie won, 22 seasons in a row now. And there's there you've not made it in the top 16 or 24 of that. I don't know if it's leaving at 25 minutes in a game, 25 to 26 minutes in a game to show how unhappy you are the 25 to 26 season. I don't know if it's not, or it's now taking off the home cup ticket scheme. I don't know what the right thing to do is. I still feel deep down they've got us by the short and curlies. And all I can do is rant on this, rant on Twitter, and hope that what gets more people of the same mindset. But I don't really know what that even achieves in the end anyway. I just feel like right now, the only reason this platform matters to me is because I've got a platform to vent on.
I think when you're looking at it as well, it's a really hard one for the supporters because ultimately it's a way of life for so many of the season ticket holders that we have that go every week, home and away, to then feel like they're needing to leave the ground early. It needs to be something very significant that's pulling at them quite a lot to make them want to do that. And so you can understand why there might be many that are reluctant to do so, and given that they have that deep connection, with the club, and it is a part of their sort of weekends as such. And that doesn't necessarily mean, by the way, that they are fully in support of the board. A lot of Celtic fans are really caught between a rock and a hard place on that element, if there was to be a walkout, in the sense that they love the football club so much, and this is where the board get their moments and get their opportunities, is because they play on that significantly. They're very dirty when it comes to that side of things, and they're quite happy to go low on the fact that they know that emotional connection is so strong for so many that
Of course.
it takes so much to then force them to walk out.
That's what
And
I was touching on, mate. That is exactly what I'm
yeah,
touching on, by the way.
and I think you're in a situation there as well where the board have probably got a bit of complacency because they know the waiting list numbers are extremely high as well. So even if there was to be a number of season ticket holders that decided come the end of the season, if things don't improve in January and it turns out to be a poor season and some of them decide not to renew in protest, they know that they can pick that back up because there are so many on that waiting list that they've ended up in a situation because of this conditioning that they've done for a lot of Celtic fans as well, by the way. They'll probably turn around and think everything's maybe not rosy, but it's not terrible. It's what there will be an element of Celtic fans that do think like that. And there'll be an element of Celtic fans that just want to go to the games that have never had the opportunity to because that waiting list is so long that they really do have us.
It's hard though. It's hard. It's surely though. Stop being fucking self-indulgent in that time. Whether you've had an opportunity or not, wait for the right opportunity. And if you really want the best for the club, it's then sacrificing a wee bit for yourself, in my opinion. I want to as well address this one, Jonathan, just before we go, because it's been over an hour now. Bhoycie, Typhoon McFlustery, great name, love that. He says, Bhoycie, what company in the fucking world would let a CEO lose a 40 million bonus, then fuck up a recruitment drive? I ask him which 40 million and which recruitment drive is he referring to?
Yeah, Celtic. It's
Come on. Hey,
it's
it's not the
champions.
first one, is it?
Yeah,
But they've done it numerous times. Yeah, but I mean, I know he's original, but I mean, that's like satire. What I'm trying to do there. Of course, he's spot on, but there's so many examples of it. Of course, they'll still get away with it.
well, they can do whatever they like. I mean, they are pretty much. I think this window they've really taken the piss even more than far more than they normally do. It's almost as if there's a perverse game going on in the boardroom. How far can we actually push this lot before we actually get a bit of heat on us? And I think they've finally gone and pushed it too far with a large number of the supporters, and they are going to feel that in their pockets over the next few months. Because, as I say, I think one thing I am fairly confident about is the Europa League uptake will be poor, I think, regardless of what they price it at. But I think particularly if they price that at the sort of going rate that they would normally charge, when they've shown zero ambition throughout this window, they've shown zero interest in keeping a manager who is very highly regarded and is going to be significantly downgraded on as well, may I add, come the end of the season, because they're not getting another guy the stature of Brendan Rodgers next summer when they have to go and find a new manager. That's then going to end up being a case you get stuck with a guy like John Kennedy or Sean Maloney gets a promotion. It'll be something ridiculous like that, or it's going to be some other cheap option or a manager we've never came across before where you're rolling the dice with them. But you're not going to be getting somebody of the stature of Brendan Rodgers who you cannot even manage your own transfer affairs to any sort of level. Any football club in this division has probably done a better job. I know that's saying much, but has done a better job than fucking Celtic this with the fucking St Mirren. Anyone you want to pick.
Have you seen Aberdeen signing?
Who have they got in? Was it
it's a guy called
last night?
Right, mate. Right, they've just signed. This is amazing, right? I know two parties need to be involved in signings, boy for work, right? But also, you can't attract good players to Scotland. Aberdeen have just signed a guy called Jimmy Carlson, I think his name is. It might not be Jimmy. Fuck it. Carlson. Right? At his AZ record in the Eredivisie. Yes. It was something along the lines of 110 games, 45 goals, 33 assists. He went to Udinese for 11 million quid. Or not Udinese, Bologna for 11 million quid. Udinese have just tried to buy him for 5-6 million. Aberdeen have managed to get him on loan. He'd, again, walk into our first team right now. Hearts have signed a player for the same value as we've signed a replacement for Kyogo and Ida. 1.8 million. In fact, I think it's more than what Yamada cost. More.
Yeah, probably.
Mate, let's not turn the finger at Scottish football, because they'll just turn it right back on you and go, Hibs broke their transfer record again.
Yeah.
They spent, I think 1.2 million on a player, something like that. We're now chuffed if Celtic do that. Celtic can send 100 million. Right.
We just signed so many, and we just don't fucking know what to do. So it was like, there was something I'd seen. It was like, oh well, Celtic have actually signed what was like 11 players this window, so they didn't really sign a full first team, if you like, if you want to look at it like that. Forgetting the fact that only about 2 of them, 3 of them, 4 at a push are actually going to be in and around the first team that we've actually brought in, and I just don't understand it.
And at the very least, replacing Jonathan. You're meant to build from a position of strength. People are like, oh, we've signed first team players. We lost 37 goal contributions for Kuhn. We sold our talisman in the last 4 years in January. These are key. We replaced Greg Taylor with Kieran Tierney, who now it turns out 100% effectively can't do 90 minutes. Negan's been brought in to replace Matt O'Reilly. Matt O'Reilly left a year ago. Kyogo and Ida have departed and haven't been replaced. Both of them. Oh, come on.
Yeah. It's about as incompetent as you're ever likely to see. And the weird thing was that when they got the Negrin deal done fairly early in the window, and that's a very good point that Lewis is making as well, to be fair.
Please read it out.
We're talking about, Club Brugge this season selling 90 million worth of players and reinvesting 30 million of that with quality youth players. Celtic would need to learn, and I think that is a very valid point, because a team like Club Brugge is very much a model that Celtic should be able to have in place. A team like Club Brugge is very much a team that Celtic should be able to compete with if they're being run correctly. Club Brugge are pretty much a team that we can look at and think, well, if they're managing to do it with limited resources,
bigger than them.
How are they managing to do it? And let's find a way of making that work for us, because there has to be ways that Celtic have to be looking at to actually get forward.
Know that. They don't want to look. It's not about Celtic have to be looking at. They don't want to look at it.
Well, this board don't.
They want a closed golf club, and what they do works for them. And you can all shut up, stay silent, and mind your own business.
And except that you'll just be slightly better than Rangers, and that'll do everybody happily. And I think that's something as well that we'll underestimate in time, is there's going to come a point where you can only beat Rangers and slap them about so much, Russell, before you begin to think there must be more to this football club than just slapping about a bunch of ditties that were formed fucking 2012.
Mind your own business. Mind your own business. And by the way, slag off Rangers, they spent fucking £8 million a player this window. What was our record signing? 5?
5.2.
How could they get back in that short space of time? With the amount of Champions League opportunities we've had, our full existence, and if you want to call them this brand new club, fine, let's go down that road. So a club that's 13 years old, you also condone being able to now outspend your individual strikers this summer.
Yeah.
And have been a European final. Like, make your mind up.
The scary thing is, Russell, if they had this type of money, they'd have fucking spent it.
I know. And imagine even having it come down to that. Anyway, we're going to get out of here, but it's been an hour and 10 minutes. It's been very untherapeutic. I'm probably more angry now than I was at the start of the show. I don't give a fuck about getting clipped up, by the way. All that nonsense. Slag us off what you want. I'm down with that, because the more people that see it, the better, as far as I'm concerned, because there is so much shit going on right now at the football club that me and Jonathan both adore, and everyone in the chat adores as well. Are they Celtic anymore? That's the question, and probably the title for the next show. I will be back on tomorrow again. Jonathan, thanks very much for coming on tonight. I know it's not easy when it's in the back of all this stuff. I appreciate it. We'll see you all later.